Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Paranormal, the new normal. I know I only been doing weekend editions lately. I don't know what's up with that. Nobody wants to do 10 o'clock at night with me when it gets spooky. But no one wants to stay up that late. What do you want me to do? But I am very happy you're all here because today's show is going to be awesome. I will say that now. I am being joined by Mr. D Paul Fleming, Navy veteran, first and foremost. Thank you for your service. And a medium and Native American holy man, which that last one is what I'm dying to talk about as we get into this a little bit. But first things first, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right, Jeremy. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
My pleasure. When you came to me with what you want to talk about, I couldn't say no. I would be a fool to say no. So yeah, I don't like to be a fool. So, let me ask you the same question I ask everybody at the beginning of this show. What brought you down the paranormal, supernatural, spiritual road, whatever you prefer to call it?
Yeah, I didn't have a choice. It was it's what I am. First and foremost, it's who I am. You know, I've been this way since I can remember, and then some. You know, so for the longest time in life, I did everything I could to mask it, hide it, get away from it, try not to pay attention to it. But you know, it called me. So here I am on your show, ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny how often that is the answer when I ask that question. People are born into it, and it's true. People are naturally born into this. I unfortunately wasn't born into it. I had to kind of freaking force my way in, and even then, I'm still not fully in. It's just one of those things. Those who want to can't be born that way. But I talk to people like you so I can at least experience what it's like to be that way. And it's a common theme. People just are forced into this, forced into the paranormal. I think it's actually the title of like 3 or 4 of my episodes already. But
yeah,
when did you start realizing that you were a little different than everybody else that you knew?
Ever since my first memory, my whole life has been surrounded by being an outcast. You know, not fitting in. You know, and as life took its course, I learned more and more as to why I'm that way, you know, and how this, spirit world, the game of the spirit world works, you know, and what to do, what not to do. And, so since I can remember, I've always had the ability to see things that other people can't and to know things. And that's the big one, and to know things that others don't, especially the people you're with or the people you're talking to. You know, I know things about people that, can make them cringe. Now, let me throw a quick story at you. 30 years ago, my wife and I are at a bar, doing what, it's probably 30 years ago now, right? Doing what young people do, right? And This lady brushed up against my arm. And the bar was pretty packed, and my wife's to my right. And I never saw this lady before, but she brushed up against my arm. And as soon as she did, I look at her, and without a second's thought, I said, "Oh, you have cancer." Man, this girl's face just drained of all existence. And beside her was her boyfriend. Now, I'm not a small guy, but this guy was 11'9", okay, with, arms bigger than Hulk Hogan, okay? So I'm like, this guy's face is like, what did you say to her, right? And the lady just looks at me and she goes, "How did you know? I just found out today and I haven't told anybody." Again, this has happened to me so many times in my life. I just kind of, as soon as the words come out of my mouth, I'm like, yeah, boy, look at now here we go. And anyway, long story short, she cornered my wife and spent some time talking with her, but I did everything I could to kind of get out of that conversation. But that's the kind of knowing that I've dealt with my entire life. And again, knowing is just a piece of it.
I couldn't imagine just having someone say that to me at a bar and being able to be like, what? That would be, that's right there with someone walking up to you and saying, "You're my dad." That's right there with that. So that's, wow. Okay. That's an experience that I have to start to show off with. I love it.
I got a million of them.
I'm sure. I mean, it's see, that's one of those things that everybody wishes they had the ability to know things before they happen, but they don't
Mm.
realize it comes with its negatives too, and you don't want to know certain things.
You want me to give you an example?
Sure, I love examples.
In 2022, I've got a dream log and a bunch of different journals. Well, my dream log, I've been writing in that for probably 10 years now. Because I've always known that what I dream is a foreshadow of what's coming. I saw the Israeli war and so on. I saw all that. Well, in 2022, I wake up with a pain in my heart that you can't imagine. And as I reach for my dream log, I'm having a mental argument with myself about the difference of saying something to manifest it and not saying something so it won't manifest, right? I know it gets deep in the weeds of spiritual belief, but I struggled to write this down. I crossed it out a couple of times and then finally said, listen, I've either got to trust what I get, which is, a learning curve for those who have gifts. You got to trust what you get. Don't question it and try it. Just accept it. Well, the dream I had in 2022 was that my wife has cancer. So you can understand why I didn't want to write it, right?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
So April rolls around of this year. My wife comes back from a breast cancer screening. Sure as shit. She says they found a lump. So we're battling stage 4, aggressive, non-curable breast cancer. Okay.
Oof. Sorry to hear that.
And I know the outcome. So for anybody who says, well, I'd really like to know, well, careful what you wish for, because there are many things that most people would prefer not to know.
Yeah, I mean, be careful what doors you want to open, because not all the doors have the best things behind them waiting for you. So there's positive and negatives to everything in the paranormal field. You're going to find out things about your loved ones that you never want to know before, and even if they're not fatal things like this, it still could be just things you don't want to know. I mean, people have secret lives for a reason. They have things they don't want people to know, and that's exactly, you should know those doors shouldn't be opened. I mean,
you're spot on, Jeremy.
And I'm sure it's a moral dilemma every time, because I'm sure there have been times where you're like you find out something about somebody and you're just like, can I go to the police about this even, or am I?
Yeah.
Are they going to think I'm crazy?
Yeah. The guidance from the universe is simple: cause no harm, cause no interference. So those are the first thoughts that enter my mind when I see something, sense something, know something. Okay. You don't want to be telling people that, something's coming when they're not meant to know. So for those who truly understand how the spiritual world works, those who have a healthy respect for how to comply with, what the universe expects, what the spirit world expects. And that's for people like me to follow some basic rules, which in part are cause no harm, cause no interference. Again, I don't judge anybody else. I'm just telling you that's how I've learned to operate. That's my understanding of the gifts, utilizing the gifts that I have.
And I gotta ask this, because you were in the Navy.
Yes.
And were you open about this type of stuff in the Navy, or did you keep it hush hush because it's the Navy?
No, I never really hushed, but I didn't promote it. I would do things that guys in the Navy that I was with, that would bring me to their house and ask me questions, and I would tell them, so it was known, but it was, I didn't run around saying I'm a psychic, a medium, an empath, a healer, but I did a lot quietly.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta imagine in the armed services that could be a blessing sometimes to know what's going to happen before it happens, because I'm sure you saved your ass a couple times because of that.
Oh, there's no doubt. But um, at the time that I was virtually killed, didn't send me a warning. I was doing some stuff on. See the submarine in the background?
Yeah.
That's that's a picture of an emergency blow by the USS Dallas. If you ever saw the movie Hunt for Red October, I spent 3 years, 2 months attached to that boat, deploying around the world. I was in Libya the first time we went after Gaddafi. So on one particular op, we were topside and line tender for some reason didn't do his job, and I got sucked under, got run over, run over by the submarine, and squished by the surface ship. We were getting some transferring orders and such. And next thing I know, I'm floating above the boat, watching them pull me out of the ocean. You know, and then I don't remember anything for the next 30 hours. But that was pretty interesting. Being outside your body, and it wasn't the first time, it wasn't the last. But it's an example of, especially for veterans, when I try to work with them on trauma. Because when you go through trauma, depending on how significant, you get a good peek behind the veil. And if you've ever been dead, right, and come back to life, it's an experience.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I have. I thank God for that somewhat, but I mean, it's kind of funny how fate and the universe works like that, where they don't, they're not going to tell you the things you probably really need to know. they're going to say like, okay, you have to experience this. We're not going to warn you about it because you have to experience this 100%. It's going to happen. It's something it needs to happen in your life for some reason or another to teach you a lesson or to make you experience something. It's going to happen. Deal with it. I mean,
that's why our soul is here, Jeremy.
Yep, to
learn those things. Hence, cause no harm, cause no interference. If somebody would have come along and say, "Hey, this is going to happen," right? I wouldn't have this story, and I wouldn't have that piece. So the universe would have had to find another way to make its point, to teach its lesson.
See, I love being. That basically lines up with me being a Whovian because it's that's the whole Doctor Who motto too. Don't interfere. Don't cause any harm. Just watch. Right. That's always been the rules for history in that show. So I mean, it makes sense. It's a lot. It's been used a lot in life. That saying, you don't want to interfere with what fate has in store for us all. Because I mean, you could try to change fate, but you're not going to. And 99% of the time, it's not going to work. Somehow, it's going to come back around and just bite you in the ass that you try to change it. But so when you got out of the Navy, did you immediately want to go into business, being a healer or a medium, trying to help people, or did it take a while to get down that course?
Nope. I wanted nothing to do with it. I really didn't. I didn't fit in. I don't fit in. I still don't fit in. And I thought and I felt that if I could, package this thing away, that I could be a person that was more in line with the rest of society, right? Who wants to be an outcast? Who wants to be somebody that walks into a room and feels the shift in energy?
Mm-hmm.
I'm one of those people that the conversation either stops or shifts when I enter a room. Okay. And over the decades of learning, your soul, your aura, your power is in a bubble around you. And depending on, I don't want to say how advanced, but how much practice, how much training you've done, how well you've cleared yourself, that depends on how far your aura will reach out. Okay. So you're touching all these people, and in reverse, they're trying to touch you, not physically, but spiritually, energetically. And that's where you see energy vampires, people that'll buzz around a gathering. And when they walk away, the people say, "Oh my God, I'm drained." Well, you are drained because that person just came and sucked all your energy,
Yeah, they're definitely. That's one thing that is funny is because there are definitely Colin Robinsons of the world. Energy vampires do exist. Like, I don't know if you've seen What We Do in the Shadows, but energy vampires do exist. I mean, they're a real thing. They will suck the life out of any room, and I've been around them. Like, and they're the people at your job that you avoid because as soon as they leave you, you're just gonna be like, what the hell just happened? Like, what?
And they're 9 times out of 10, they're not bad people.
No.
They just don't know mentally what they're doing spiritually.
Yeah, well, I mean, you hope at least. I mean, I'm sure there are those out there that actually do know exactly what they're doing, and they're doing it on purpose to get the power. But the true Colin Robinsons of the world. But so when you messaged me to see if I'd like to have you on my show, you said you had some stories that would make my toenails clip themselves, and that's what made me like immediately say like, okay, I gotta get this guy on because I've heard a lot of stories in my 300 plus episodes of this show, and no one has ever said it like that to me, so I'm like, okay, I got to hear these stories that are gonna make my toenails clip because they need it actually, but that's another story.
Well, let's start with this. My next book, Mysteries at the Wyndham Inn. Okay. This is book 1 in a series. Book 2, I'm almost done with. It'll be out in November, December. But that book tells a lot of tales that'll cause your toenails to clip themselves. Okay. Here's the crazy part. This whole thing started, Mysteries at the Wyndham Inn, because a friend of mine that I grew up with and really hadn't seen him much in 40 plus years, right? He just stopped by out of the blue and started telling me about this cat that used to attack him in his sleep when he lived at the Wyndham Inn. Okay. So as he's telling me this story, like usual, I see these bubbles that pop up. All right. So when people talk, I see what they say. All right. So as he's saying this, I can see the spirit of that cat. All right. And what it's doing. And then I could see its intent. And as he's saying this, I don't want to tell Gary these things. I don't want to scare him. Right. Okay. So when he's done telling the story and I kind of step away, all I kept hearing was, you have to write the book. You have to write the book. You have to write the book. I'm like, man, I'm not a novelist. What the hell do you want me to do? Write a book on mysteries? And it just kept at it. It just kept at it and kept at it until I finally surrendered and said, all right, I'm going to sit down and start writing this book. And it's become this thing that's mushrooming and growing. I'm stunned at how many people are coming out of the woodwork to tell me stories about the Wyndham Inn. Okay. And not many of them are good.
Where is the Wyndham Inn? I've heard that name, but I don't actually know where it is.
So, Wyndham County in Connecticut, one of 8 counties, is in the northeast corner of Connecticut, tucked in between Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But the story behind the Wyndham Inn starts before the hanging of Miss Elizabeth. Okay, the first woman to be hung in the mid 1700s. All right, she was actually hanged twice. Okay, first time didn't take, and I kind of book 3 will start outlining what happened to her. All right, but there's a lot of good versus evil. There's a lot of humor in this book. Okay, it's not one of these. It's a spooky book, but it's packed with humor and stories that'll curl your toes. Not always clip your toes, but they'll curl your toes. Okay. But if you're looking for a good story on that'll clip your toes, I was working in my garden one day with my wife, and this 7-foot-tall Native American, full regalia, and I mean full regalia, materializes, and he's just staring at me. And I'm like, all right, what's up? Okay, so this went on for a couple of days. He was getting my attention, and then he starts pointing. All right. So I say to my wife, I said, what do you think he's pointing at? And she goes, your sister. And I'm like, really? So then it kind of hits me. It's like I need to go clear my sister. So I go see her, and I'm working on her, and I'm watching this thing. And it leads me down this path into believing it was a good entity. The reality was it was what I call a trickster, a demon. This one happened to be a relatively low-level demon, okay? And he absolutely tricked me into thinking he was good, not evil, okay? And it almost hurt. But as quickly as I kind of picked up that something wasn't right, my spirit guides are saying, "Hey, stupid, you better open your eyes." So when I do, when I shift that, make that shift and say, "Wait a minute, man," and I put up my protection and say, "Hey, what's going on here?" This nasty thing went to war, and we had. Look, it's not the first time I've done this, but we had what the Catholic Church will call a full-blown exorcism right down in there. Okay, this thing got pissed and violent quickly, and I mean quickly. Yeah, that was an adventure, but got it out of her and got it away. But here's where synchronicity. When people say synchronicity isn't real and all that, and I'm telling you, man, follow synchronicity.
Oh, 100% real, 100%.
So when I'm clearing my sister, when I'm doing this work to get this demon out of her, I'm standing at her picture window taking a break, and I'm looking out, and I see across the street, I see these ghosts of from like the 1600s. They're dressed in the regalia, the bonnet and the blue with the white apron, and all I keep hearing is witches, witches, witches. Okay, and they would stay right at the edge of the road, and I mean at the edge. They wouldn't come on the road. They would just stay there, and that whole piece of land is undeveloped. So I start doing a little research. My brother-in-law's in the construction business. So I told him, "What's going on with that land?" He goes, "For some reason, nobody's been able to develop it. It's great land and so on. But every time somebody tries to get something going, it falls through, people die." And I'm like, as soon as he said that, I'm like, oh, crap. When he said that, I watched this vision fly past me. Okay. Used to see him in like a film scrolling. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I see him in movie clips. So as I see this 1970s souped up sports car. I'm not a big car guy. So I don't have GTO. I don't know what the hell it was, but it's a souped up roadster, right? Flying down the road, and one of those witches, dressed in like an Amish woman, okay, standing in the middle of the road, out of the blue, that car swerves and crashes into the tree. I said to him, I go, "Hey, man, did you guys have an accident across the street?" And they're like, "No." I said, "All right." 2 years later, yep, souped up sports car. 17-year-old kid has been something his dad and him had been building for some period of time, right? And I can see it as plain as I'm seeing you. Into the tree, on its side, the back of the bottom of the car is what you can see, and the as I title them now, the Witches of Hampton, where you could feel their excitement because they were going to capture, or they felt they were going to capture another soul, right? But in flies this white light being, gets in between them, protects the kid, and then the ambulances show up and so on and so on. The kid survived, but I saw all that before it happened.
That's some creepiness right there. That is some creepiness. And so Witches of Hampton. That's a new one. I
introduced it in book 1 of Mysteries of Wonderland. We talk about it, but there'll be a standalone book on the Witches of Hampton. I've got a lot more research to do. There's some folks that I work with. Jane up at Wisdom of the Ages. She owns a spirit shop. Great place. Very, very smart group of people. She's battling with. She just got through doing battle with some witches out of another part of Connecticut, but it's all tied together. Okay, without getting too long-winded, when the Puritans and that type came across from the old world and started claiming land and so on here, some of these groups were so dark that even these other religious groups kept pushing them farther and farther away. In one sense, that's how Rhode Island became Rhode Island, right? The leadership fled Massachusetts and went to Rhode Island. Well, they did the same thing in portions of Connecticut, and they did it a lot longer than the other colonies, so to speak. Well, this group of witches had claimed a vast chunk of land here in Connecticut, and that land known to the Mohican tribe and the Pequot tribe as a place that you don't go. Well, that's where the witches went.
I see. This is the hidden history of of America that people don't hear about, and it's like, why? This is the more interesting stuff than actually what they teach us. Like, this is the stuff we should know about. And, I mean, I'm in Massachusetts, so witches are a hot topic, of course, because I live pretty close to Salem, not too far away, and everybody knows the history of witches in Massachusetts. I mean, I honestly would be surprised if down in the Bridgewater Triangle area, the South Shore, there was like witches.
Yeah, that's dark. That's dark shit down there. As soon as you said Bridgewater, what'd you say? Bridgewater.
Bridgewater Triangle. Yeah.
I'm getting pings. Yeah, that's got some dark places there. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, it's all good. Actually, well, the funny thing is that's where my wife's from, is that area. But so I've spent time down there, and yeah, it's a strange area down there. It's like, I mean, it's got a lot of legends, a lot of sightings of things, and different cryptids and aliens and all that good stuff. But and I mean, apparently, supposedly in the 80s, 70s, there was a lot of satanic cult activity down there. I mean,
Yeah,
how much of it was legit and how much is actually not, or just kids being stupid, who knows? But there was a lot of murders down there too in the Freehold Forest and whatnot. So,
well, in this book, I write about the town in Connecticut that was eventually abandoned, and it grew back to weeds and such. But that town, right? It's no longer a town now. I mean, it's a town in name only. Is as spooky as it gets. But one of the reasons that town had such a demise is because they broke the rock that the Native Americans had placed on the portal that allowed the darkness to come up through the earth. Okay. When the settlers came in, they just broke all these things and so on. Okay. And they opened up and allowed darkness to re-enter where historically the natives have done their job to keep them contained. Well, that's in part how the Wyndham Inn became so filled with spirits and ghosts and dark entities.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. It's kind of the same story, but well, slightly different version of the Bridgewater Triangle story because the Native American chief down there cursed the land before he was killed by settlers. So because they slaughtered the whole tribe. So, and I mean, I could tell you, I've experienced some stuff down there that's freaky as could be, and there is definitely some Native American spirits hanging around there, not happy. And whatever Pudgewuckies are, but we don't know that. We don't know what they are really.
Well, wait till you read through the various books that come out on that I release on Mysteries of the Wyndham Inn, because what you just said ties back to the tribes that are here and still here. And I know some of the players in the book I've known for a very long time.
Which, all right, well, that's a good time to my next question, because when you went through all this with seeing the Native American full regalia, were you already working with Native Americans at that point, or did you not get to that point in your life?
Yeah, I'd been going to powwows and connected to my Native American past since I can remember. I mean, I still have memories of dancing at powwows and being in dance competitions at a very young age. And we were part of the North American Indian Club, which is different from Massachusetts. North American Indian Club was kind of the premier thing in the early to mid 70s. And that's a group, in my opinion, that kind of held the Pequot Nation, Foxwoods, and the Mohican, the Sun, those tribal people together. And we used to go there. We used to go to the reservations then. And I mean, what a shithole, what a mess, right? And then of course the casinos came and, for the most part changed all that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've been to the casinos. I've enjoyed them, but
if you go to the Mohegan Sun and you see Gladys, the 5-foot legendary last of the full-blooded Mohegans, her brother Chief Tanaquidgeon, we used to go to his museum when it was all handmade and so on back in the 70s, and her brother was a World War II vet, wrote a book or two, but they're the cornerstone of the Mohican tribe, in my opinion.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I haven't been there since I was a kid, but it's. I mean, I've always Native American lore and myth has always fascinated me since I was a kid. Like it's always been one of those things because they believed everything that I felt like the rest of the world should believe, but we weren't there yet. We're getting there slowly. Still this day, we're getting there, but it's slow. It's moving. The spiritual awakening.
That's funny you say that, because if you ever read Chief Fool's Crow book, all right, he was a Sioux holy man and healer until he died at the age of 99. You know, he would do a 4-day ceremony where in part, you know, he would talk with the spirit world and find out what plant, what root was needed to heal the person that came to him. And he never failed. So why do I say that now? Because I'm watching the rebirth of the approach to healing using nature. Okay. Again, it took a wild turn when Rockefeller and his oil conglomerate got broken up and pissed him off. And, you know, then he went about using his money and his influence to eliminate plant-based healing, right? Nature-based healing. And he forced the pharmaceutical industry to take point, and everything had to go through that. And that's where he got Congress to, you know, say that natural healing is bogus and so on. That shift back to the right way is coming about.
Yeah, I mean, I have talked to a lot of plant healers. Most of them studied in other countries, mainly South America and Africa. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it's definitely making a huge comeback. I mean, the fact that ayahuasca is becoming as fluent as it is in the world nowadays is definitely in the right direction. And more people are leaning towards Native American medicine and all this older medicine because today's medical society is horrible. I mean, look at the stuff that came out in the news this past week. I mean, it's just the vaccines are bad. Everything. I mean, honestly, say what you want about the man, but at least someone's finally pointing this stuff out and bringing it to the public's knowledge. I mean, there have been people like conspiracy theorying it for years that vaccines are horrible for kids, and they were whack jobs in most people's minds for most of it. And now all of a sudden, no, they were right. You know, it's not the first time it's happened in the last 5-10 years. There's been a lot of conspiracy theories that are now fact, and they can't be called conspiracy theories anymore. I mean, what's the weather control? What do you call it? I can't think what the hell it's called.
Cloud seeding.
Cloud seeding. But there's another thing I'm thinking of that I can't think of. Something else to do with planes and basically crop dusting humans. But
cloud seeding. Okay, trying to force rain, and you know, and then the Alaska, well, I don't want to get too far into that, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of many conspiracy theories that are now true. I mean, flat Earth ain't coming true, thank God. But other than that, like a lot of these ones are coming true, and it's scary because these are all things that we used to like joke about as kids and be like, "Oh, this ain't real." Like it's just crazy whack jobs with their tinfoil hats, and yeah, they may have been smarter than us, and we all should have been wearing tinfoil hats at some point. It's just the things that the people in charge in this world do without like telling the mass public just so they can make money or have secret agendas. Like it's crazy. I mean, it should go back to that, but get out of my political zone here and go back into the paranormal a little bit. So what kind of, I don't even know how to really ask this, but what has working with Native Americans like really taught you for as far as the spiritual side goes? Like what is like the biggest lesson you learned from them about it?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? What's the biggest thing I've learned from them? Probably that 99% of what, probably about 99% of what Native Americans know remains a secret. The majority of what true Native American healing, true shaman, true holy men, true spiritual leaders, you know, they don't talk about it. They don't. I'm not saying they won't heal people. It's not what I'm saying. You know, they won't post it. They won't tell the stories. You know, they won't explain why. The closest you'll get is Chief Fool's Crow. If you read his books, you he tells you what he sees and the process and so on. Okay. But it's boiled down to something very simple. Covers himself in a hood, listens and talks to the spirit world. He's got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of guides. Okay. And they search until they find the right one and then tell him, go look for this particular plant. And he'll go walk until he finds the plant, brings it back, turns it into a tea, and voila. But he doesn't really tell you, he doesn't match the plant to the ailment, or what he's trying to do. If you've done this long enough, you can look at stones or crystals as example. And one of the stones is what's used in the psychological world to deal with mental health issues. Okay. So in one of his stories, he talks about helping somebody who was struggling with anxiety, right? And he used this particular stone, right? And then told this person to keep this stone with you at all times. And the energy of that stone will help you stay grounded and so on.
Yes. See, when it comes to crystals, I'm still on the fence because I've yet to have like the actual. I'm a scientific thinker, so I have to actually have the proof in front of me that it works. And a lot of paranormal field, I've had things where I've seen the proof, or I believe the person tell me enough to know it's proof. But crystals are one of those things where it's like, I don't know. I can see how it could work, but I also am like, how would it? I mean, it's one of those things where in my mind, it's one of those things where I guess if you believe it enough, like you're kind of like manifesting it, but I don't know. I can't even wrap my head around it fully. That's the biggest problem.
You want me to tell you how it works?
Sure. Enlighten me.
Yeah, it's very simple. Do you agree that everything has energy?
Yeah, of course. That's basic science.
Do you think glass is a solid or a liquid?
I mean, from a scientific view, it depends what state it's in, but on a spiritual molecular field, I would say it's probably liquid.
If you take a pane of glass that's 100 years old, you pop it out, look at the bottom. It'll have a little bubble on the bottom. Okay. So science has proven that glass, while it's solid, still remains as a liquid. And as long as that pane of glass is hanging there, those molecules move back and forth. Would you agree with me with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a reason windows vibrate. Yeah.
Well, so over time, those molecules, gravity just pulls them down. But everything is energy. Everything has molecules, right? From a single cell, from a simple atom to a rock, and everything in between, water. It's all made up of one common denominator: energy. Every time a molecule moves, it creates energy, right? What it also creates is a frequency. Crystals, in order for people to understand how they are effective, you need to focus on the frequency. Okay. So there's a couple of key crystals like black tourmaline or selenite. The frequency that those stones or crystals vibrate at pushes away darkness, right? So it's like a negative and positive on a magnet, right? Yeah. So the darkness has a charge. Let's call it a negative charge, right? And a crystal like selenite, okay, has a positive charge. That positive charge forces the negative charge into a different direction, okay? Boom, right? So black tourmaline, selenite are great crystals for holding off or protecting against darkness. Okay. So just think about the frequency, right? And remember, for some reason I can't remember the name of the stone or the drug, but the stone I was telling you about anxiety. Okay. If you mash it up and crush it into a pill, that's what the psychological world gives live bodies to combat mental illness. It's a true story.
Interesting. See, I've worked with Reiki masters and whatnot, and I have to believe crystals work because they've proven it to me enough. They've sent me materials and I've used them, and I know all these different all these different things that come out of nature are just pure, like they work in the way they're supposed to if you use them right.
Yeah, let me jump in there. Let me jump in there and give you a great example. I do this often. I'll tell, so I do a lot of work with veterans, okay? And I'll tell these vets, close your eyes, put something in your hand, and I'll take a particular stone, put it in their hand, say, close your hand, tell me what you feel. And 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of times out of 10, they'll say, I feel calm. I feel more relaxed. Now, they have no idea what I just put in their hand. They open their eyes and look at it, and it's blue lace agate. Well, blue lace agate is calming. Okay. So I do this often for the purpose of getting them to, kind of cross that Rubicon of you did this without seeing it. How did you know this stone was going to calm you down? Okay. To a man, they've always left with a blue lace agate in their pocket. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, see, this is one of those things I gotta look more into. It's just time. The time to do the research is like ridiculous. But
That's virtually all I do.
oh
All I
yeah,
do is research, learn, study, read, right, and write.
oh three young kids kind of prevent you from reading. I haven't actually read a full book I think I read one full book in the last 5 years. But I have so many guests of mine that send me their books and whatnot, and I'm just like, I'll get to it at some point, and they're all sitting on the shelf waiting. But it's the way life goes. Eventually, I'll get back into things when I have more time as I get older. But I gotta ask this, since anybody works with Native Americans, have they shared any of their knowledge on what we call cryptids with you, or what
On what?
on what we call cryptids? I mean, it's in New England. I guess it would be thunderbirds, well, Bigfoot, obviously, or as the major names they call them, but or it, I should say. I don't like to generalize the Bigfoot, but like, have they talked to you about like Bigfoot or any of these creatures of the woods that have been around since the beginning, according to Native Americans, and they've interacted with?
So I want to answer that by kind of changing how you're asking. You're saying, have they talked to me? I'm aware of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, as crazy as it sounds, not only do I believe in all that, but I understand it to a level that frustrates people.
Ooh. I don't think you're going to frustrate me. I think you actually might really make me happy with what you know, but
Okay, so
I have a feeling.
Let's talk about Bigfoot. What is the most common color of hair that they say Bigfoot has?
Brown.
Okay. How many times have you heard them say that a Bigfoot has red hair?
Not often, but occasionally.
Okay. Do you subscribe to the biblical writings of the Nephilim, or when the angels mated with
Humans and had giants and all that stuff? Yeah.
Do you subscribe to that?
I could see it being true. I mean, I have no proof of it. Besides the bones they found of certain things, I have no proof. But
Okay. In the Midwest, in the mid 1960s, some guys stumbled onto what you just said: 9, 10, 11-foot tall skeletons of humans. Right?
yep.
You familiar with that?
Oh yeah, which the Smithsonian quickly buried the story and took the bones. Yep.
Right? Never heard from it again. Put two and two together. Okay? Think about the biblical stuff and think about people chasing Bigfoot and tell me what's the difference.
There really is. I mean, well, with Bigfoot, there are a lot of different theories of where they came from. Everybody subscribes to one or the other, or some people are torn, like me, are torn between the different theories of what's real and what's not, what's our mind making up things. But I mean, they 100% exist in my mind, 150% exist in my mind. I have no doubt. I've seen enough proof and pictures and videos and whatnot, even discerning all the fake ones out there, which there are a lot nowadays. But it's the Niflheim theory of them, though, is one I've always questioned. I mean, I am not the most religious man on earth. I don't subscribe to a lot of organized religion. or any organized religion. I actually hate organized religion, but I believe there's basis for it, and I believe there's got to be some truth within all the lore of it. There's got to be some truth. I've been told enough stuff in this show to know that a lot of it did happen. Probably that they just kings and other powerful people have taken apart it and put it back together the way they wanted it put together. So the real truth is out there. We'll never know it unless the zombie apocalypse happens and we go to the Vatican's basement and find all the old scrolls. But
well, would it be fair to say that every Native American tribe has an oral history to do something with Bigfoot?
oh, most of them do. Whether it was a creature that would come down from the mountains and take their children and wives and eat them, or whether it was just a hairy tribe of people that they traded with.
Okay. Would you also agree that every tribe, if you will, or a group of people, regardless of where they are, the Americas, Europe, Africa, all have some kind of story of a great flood?
Yep. Oh yeah. The Great Flood is talked about a lot in this show. It's one of them comes up a lot with extraterrestrials too. But the Great Flood definitely happened. I mean, it can't be in that many different mythologies and lores without it being some truth to it, because it wouldn't be the same everywhere. But it's the same everywhere. The Bible, Native American lore. It's in the Quran. It's in all these different religions. It's in everything. The Great Flood definitely happened.
So if the Great Flood and these giant hairy creatures have been around way before time and technology kind of took it down the path that it is, which is harder to believe in? The biblical and the untold number of recreations or recounts of different tribes saying these things are real way before other people got here, or that it doesn't exist?
Well, to most people always want to say it didn't exist because I just don't think their minds could get behind it.
Funny you say that, because the same thing applies, Jeremy, to the devil, hell, and darkness. When they want you to fail, they're going to get you to believe something that isn't true is true, and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, religions and the government have been doing that for centuries, for God, millennia. I mean, even ancient governments did that. They would tell you something's not real or they would make you believe something's real if they wanted to scare you, which is basically what the church did with the devil. It was, oh, listen to your parents and listen to us. Otherwise, guess what? You're going to hell, and it's a bad, bad place. Which, I mean, I truly believe there is a hell or heaven. I mean, is it what the churches say it is? I don't necessarily know that. It exists. I just think it's different dimensions.
I would agree with you. There's, it's there.
I've heard enough stories in the show of people seeing hell, people getting taken to hell for short periods of time for some reason or another. And I've heard enough stories about the afterlife and NDEs and all that to know that there's something up there. There's something out there. It's not a cloud. It's not a big cloud in the sky. I mean, it's not what they tell us as kids. It's not that. It's there, but it's just not what we picture in all the paintings and everything else that we have seen through the years.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about the idea that people say that Bigfoot's ultra or extraterrestrial, that it's either interdimensional or it's from another planet?
I personally I find that argument intriguing, and I can't say no, right? Because I know enough about portals and, stuff. I mean, this is crazy, but I've seen portals in grocery stores that have stopped me dead in my tracks. Okay. And I'm standing there staring at this thing and watching it for a period of time, and my wife's kind of trying to yank me to keep moving. But I've seen enough where I wouldn't poo-poo it, right? But I also have to believe that, like, everything else, things evolve, things change, things shift, right? And again, if Bigfoot once roamed here, and ghosts exist, why can't there be a ghost of a Bigfoot or a ghost of? Now people say, oh, there can't be ghosts of. And I'm like, well, if you could see what I see, all right, you would know that even animals will come back as a ghost or an echo or a memory, right?
I have 2 dog spirits in my house, according to past mediums I talked to. So I 100% believe you. One of them is mine, one of them is previous owners. But there's, yeah, I've talked to enough pets. I've talked to enough pet psychics and pet mediums to know that you can definitely speak to animals after the deceased, and they definitely still can walk the earth. Including every animal you can imagine can still walk the earth as a ghost, from what I've been told. And I fully believe it, because why wouldn't they be able to? They're conscious beings just like us. I mean, now people say trees and rocks can still possess the earth even after they're gone. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if there's enough consciousness there. I mean, there's consciousness, but not the kind of consciousness that humans have or animals. Like, it's just kind of like a steady conscious. It's not like a vibrational thing. At least in my mind, I could be completely off on that. I don't know.
Are you familiar with poltergeists?
Yeah, of course.
Can I ask you what's your view or what's your thought of a poltergeist? What it is?
It's basically a spirit that likes to cause havoc and mayhem because it's either angry or distressed for some reason, most likely because of how it passed. But
okay, so here's my position on a poltergeist. All right, let me use an example. I'm an early guy to bed. I'm a 8:30 guy. That's when I like to go to bed, right? So I'm in bed, and all of a sudden I hear this, crash. Right, snaps my eyes open, and I'm like, all right, something's in the house. So I yell out to my wife. I'm going to. No, I yell out, everything all right out there? She says, yeah, something just got thrown across the kitchen, right? So I can see it in my head, all right, but so I'm like, all right, do I want to get up and deal with this, or I said, all right, I'll deal with it tomorrow. Well, this particular poltergeist was brand new, so to speak. What is a poltergeist? So I did a ton of research, and I've spent a long time trying to learn how these things form. And when you're out there clearing the stuff from people and from houses and so on, it's kind of helpful to know where it originates from. So for me, a poltergeist is nothing more than a ball of energy that is created every day from people's energy and people's emotions, right? You and your wife have an argument and it gets negative, right? And you're really going at it. All of that negative energy is being created by you and her or whatever. Again, just use that as an example. Not saying you and your wife fight, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But all of that negative energy has to go somewhere. So what happens to it? Well, it comes out of you and then it's in the atmosphere, right? So think about it like this. Explain to me how a tumbleweed works. Or how does a dust bunny become a 3-4 inch ball of lint? Well, it starts out with a simple speck, just one thing. And then a breeze and some other things come along, blow it. It starts picking up other pieces of dirt, other pieces of dust until it grows. Well, a poltergeist, for example, is the same thing. It starts off as just something that somebody cast off in a negative way, right? And that energy hasn't transformed or transmuted into anything else. It's sitting there. And then one connects to the other until enough of it gets together that it develops a conscience. Okay. Now think about how a baby's conceived and then is developed. Its consciousness isn't matter of fact. It takes time. Well, the same thing with a poltergeist. So in essence, a poltergeist is nothing more than a dusty tumbleweed of dark or negative energy that grew to a point where it has enough energy, kind of like an atomic bomb, right? It has to have enough accelerant, enough uranium for it to sustain. A poltergeist to me is the same thing. Once it gathers and collects enough dark energy, it develops a conscience, and then it develops its ability to do things like throw things across the room. To me, they're relatively easy to clear, and I've done it. I've done it remotely. I've done it in person a number of times.
See, so it's basically what you're saying is it's basically a tulpa. It's something we create out of our minds in a way. I mean, it just I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with that term tulpa, but
I'm not, but I understand what you're saying.
tulpa. The best example of a tulpa is the idea of like a golem. Like it's something that we can build and bring to life by just our intentions, our ideas.
You're
With yeah,
manufacturing what?
it's manifestation basically at its highest degree. Uh, there's a lot. Yeah, the Kibik, the Jewish text, has a lot of mention of golems and how to create them,
Yeah.
build them out of mud. And I mean, there's an X Files episode on it back in the day, and Supernatural did too, and all that. But it's there. It's basically a tulpa in my mind. Is what you're saying is a poltergeist is. It's basically something we create out of our own mind, even if we don't mean to. I mean, and that does make sense. I mean, kind of ruins the movie Poltergeist now, but it makes sense. It really does. Like it throws. I mean, because people, the idea of poltergeist that I've always heard from people is that they're just very angry spirits, and they become poltergeists when they become destructive or nuisance, which that's something different then. So, angry spirits exist. Obviously, they're out there. They haunt.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
The most dangerous and deadly spirit that I ever had to deal with?
I'd love to hear it.
The living.
I love it.
I'm
Yeah,
dead serious.
I believe it. I mean,
For some reason, I really don't fear the darkness. I mean, it's terrifying, right? But I don't fear it. Okay. There are live humans that I would say you have a good reason to fear that person. Okay. I really I don't fear the paranormal. Okay. I understand it. And like anything else, once you understand something, your fear goes away, right? For the most part.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, I have a 10-month old, and when they tell you that babies can sense whether people are good or bad at that young age, they are not kidding. Um, she'll meet people. She was just in the hospital for a couple of days because she had a low fall, and some of the people in the hospital that worked there, she was smiling, trying to reach for, and happy as could be to be around. Some of them, she gave them the death's glare and wanted nothing to do with them. And I kind of felt the same way about all these people. I kind of had the same emotions going, and
Yeah.
just I mean, I didn't really act on it. I mean, I definitely safeguarded myself and my kid from them, but there's a lot of bad people in this world nowadays. There's always been good and bad, but bad's getting a lot worse because people are dealing with a lot more in the world than they ever have, and mental stress and just being more people are being raised to be sociopaths and psychopaths because their parents don't even realize they're doing it, but it's happening.
Well, Jeremy, you're almost sugarcoating something that I can say very simply. The battle of good versus evil is not only alive, it is accelerating. Anybody that doesn't think we are in a spiritual global war doesn't have the first clue what they're dealing with. Take everything you're dealing with and put that label on it. This is a global spiritual war of good versus evil.
And do you think it's being caused by certain factions in the world that want it to happen in order to?
Yes, it to me, everything comes down to the battle of dark versus light, good versus evil. Everything, everything. Again, look, and I want to get into a political debate. Okay.
Yep.
But I want to say, look at the people that are killing people right now, the most recent event. Look at those people. Okay. If you can see what I see, you would know, well, you'd have a view, you'd have a different view. Okay. It's like you said about what you saw in the hospital. Well, it's the same thing, except on a grander scale. That is non-stop, and it is accelerating. Okay, and again, the writings, the Bible, the whatever theologian approach you want to take, they all say the same thing. Not only is this thing coming, but once we get through it, 1,000 years of peace and so on. Okay, but we are alligator deep in spiritual warfare.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it, and there definitely are factions out there that have an agenda, and they are working, whether they're working in a simply human interest, or they're working for the interest of things beyond our understanding, and maybe things that you have more experience with than me. But I mean, I think there's factors at play here behind the scenes that most humans can't even begin to think of, let alone know of.
Yeah, I like to say it like this: dummy it down, and just for a moment, believe that you have a good angel and a bad angel. Just believe in that for a moment. Okay. Now your ambition is to go out there and become, the best at whatever it is, singing, whatever you want to label it as. Okay. So over here you got this voice saying, you want to do it this way. And over here you got this voice saying, yeah, but if you did this, you'd get here faster, quicker, more money, more this, more that, right? So a darkness, just like God's white light, can encourage you to go down a different path. But the bait is that no, it'll be okay because the end game will justify how we got there. And while you're doing that, what you don't know is that more and more of your existence is being captured and controlled by the darkness. Every time you make one of those decisions, it latches on tighter and tighter and tighter. And I come along when people are at the point where they either need to go off the edge or find a way back. And that's usually when I get involved, when people call me up and say, hey, I got somebody that's in desperate shape. We need help.
Which, personally, I always picture two devils on my shoulders, but that's me. The old Homer Simpson approach of two devils. Where's the angel? Oh, we kicked that guy's ass and sent him flying. But it's true. I mean, there's always easier ways to get to what you want in life. They're usually not the good ways, though. They're usually the ways that you're doing something horrible to somebody else in order to get that. And whether it's actually meant to be that way or not, like you're affecting somebody else in a horrible way, whether you realize it or not. I mean, you're meant to go down a certain path in life. I'm a huge believer in fate. I'm a huge believer in these golden threads that the fates can't cut because they're meant to happen. I'm sure there's smaller ones that are just regular threads and they could be cut and rearranged as needed in life. But there's always that golden thread that nobody can take you off that unless they really, really influence you to do things you shouldn't do. And
if you don't surrender, if you don't make the decision to leave your path, then nothing will stop you. Everything will try. Everything's tried to, everything. I could spend hours telling you stories of how many times they've derailed my life and my existence and so on and so on. Okay. But unless I quit, unless I say you win, you won't beat me. Okay. Well, I'll get there. However many obstacles and hurdles I've got to cross. And as I'm saying that, I'm seeing this flash of something that'll, hopefully clip your toenails as a quick, short story. Right.
Yep.
Some years ago, maybe 10 years ago or so, my wife's company had some vets working for her, and, I would engage with them and so on. Well, this particular vet came to me and he said, listen, I hate to do this to your wife, but I need tomorrow off because we have to go have an abortion for my wife. The ultrasound that we had 2 days ago, the other day, shows the baby its insides are on its outside. And, it's not a baby. Okay. It's a collection of,
cells.
It honestly looked like somebody had hacked the baby to pieces. Okay. Its insides were out. It was nasty. And again, when he was talking, these bubbles pop up and I can see what he's saying. Okay. This makes it very difficult for people to lie to me because I can see and sense these things pretty quick. Right. So as he's saying this to me, I'm hearing, you need to meditate, bring a crystal and bring it back to him. And I don't know why. Okay. I don't know why these things tell me these things. I just listen. So I said, okay, hold on. I went home, meditated, pulled out a malachite rock, concentrated on it, talked to the spirit world. Okay. And a malachite's a green rock with a specific vibration meant to help your body align. Okay. Brought it back to him, handed it to him and said, listen, I don't care what you believe in, as long as it's something to do with white light and not darkness. Go see your wife. Don't have to tell me what you believe in. Doesn't matter to me. Put it in your wife's hand and tell her to talk to whatever it is she believes in. Okay? God, Great Spirit, the baby Jesus, Buddha, whatever it is you believe in, and tell the spirit world what you want to happen with this unborn child. Okay? Now this guy's face is just pink. He doesn't want to say anything to me like, get the out of my way, you crazy, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Something told him to say nothing, and I could feel it. Okay. So while his part of his brain was going, you're out of your mind, another part of his brain was calming him down. Okay. It was literally overpowering his dark thoughts. Okay. So the abortion's the next day, right? Supposed to be there at, I don't know, 9, 10 o'clock, whatever the hell it was. And he wasn't supposed to come back to my wife's company for the, tell him take a day, take whatever you need, right? Well, he comes racing into the parking lot sometime afternoon. He's got one of those big old redneck trucks, the high wheels and the, kind of cool stuff, but it's not something I'm into. But he comes flying into the parking lot, and as soon as I hear it, my first thought was, oh crap, right? Okay, again, I don't know how these things are going to shake out until, right? And for the most part, I forget about it. I do something, I forget about it. He flips that thing into park, and, jumps out, doesn't even shut the door, and he comes storming across the parking lot. Arms are going, and I can't hear what he's saying, all right? But I can see his eyes, and he's crying. And as he gets to me, he's got snots, and he's spitting, and he's, what the fuck was in that rock? What was in that rock? What did you do? What happened? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, what happened? He goes, we had to do an ultrasound before the abortion. The nurse called the doctor in. Another doctor came, a third doctor. They wouldn't tell us what was going on until they looked at me and my wife, and said, there will be no abortion today. Your baby is perfectly fine. The ultrasound revealed that the baby had no parts outside of it, wasn't hacked up, it was absolutely healthy. Okay. And he wanted to know how I did that. And the answer is very simple. I didn't. I have zero power. I'm nothing but a conduit. Okay. I'm here to help people connect to what they need to connect with. And I'm here to help root out darkness when it gets to a point that, you can't live in your house anymore, or, it's driving you crazy or something inside of you. So how about that story there, Jeremy? Did that clip your toenails?
Wouldn't say so much clip your toenails, but it definitely, it's one of those stories that you stand there in awe, and you're just like, wow, the mysteries of this world never cease.
So I've been doing this for my whole life. I just never talked about it. Okay. And it got to a point where the spirit world said to me, no, you need to start telling these stories. And my question is why? And the answer is simple. Telling these stories has a tendency to help others, especially those who may be on the fence of what they believe in. All right. Stories like this can help them keep the faith.
Exactly. And you're not the first person I've talked to that has that same outlook on life, where they kept quiet for years about what they experienced and what they could do. And all of a sudden now, in the last 5-10 years, they've been told, like, start spreading the word. And people say we're in the midst of spiritual awakening, and I think this is part of it. I think more and more people are coming out of the woodwork to tell their stories about what they can do, because the world needs to realize there are things in this world we don't understand yet, that we can't fully comprehend the reason behind. And there's more going on in this universe than we will ever know, at least for another couple thousand years at least. But it's just the way we are slowly awakening. The world is slowly awakening, and I wouldn't have such a successful show if people didn't want to hear this, if people didn't think these were important topics that are all of a sudden coming out of nowhere. When I was a kid, you didn't hear this stuff. You would read, there's a few books in the library maybe about this type of, and usually they were not real. Usually they were made by people who just want to make money, because that back then it was the psychic's a little weirdo who has a little house on Main Street that they do their storefronts out of their house. Don't ever go there. Don't waste your money. Like, that's all I was told as a kid. And come to find out, that's that some of them probably were good, some of them probably were accurate, and some of them probably actually knew what they were doing, and should have looked into it. Should have looked into it younger. That's always my thing. I wish I got into this stuff more at a younger age, but I got into it when I was meant to get into it. That's what I've been told. That's the purpose of this podcast. It spreads the awareness, and I've been told by other mediums that's exactly what my fate is to introduce people like you to the world, so more and more people can find out this stuff exists, and maybe it gives them hope. Maybe it gives them something, restores their faith, as you said, restores their faith in the world. Not talking just God here or any religion. It's just restoring your faith in the spirit world.
Yeah, it gives them a direction when they're out of options.
Exactly, which in today's medical society, we're going to be out of options pretty fast, because a lot of this stuff is not going to be around pretty soon, I have a feeling, because more and more stuff is getting found to be not working or dangerous to us. So guess what? There's people out there that want it to be dangerous to us, and they're slowly getting found out. So I have a feeling in the next 100 years, the medicinal world is going to go backwards to where it should be instead of forward to where it should be.
Yes.
I'm not discounting all the great surgeries and whatnot we came up with in the last 100 years that actually help people. I'm not discounting that, because that type of science is good, but there's a lot of that science can't do. So,
yeah, people ask me all the time, where do I stand between Western medicine and the spirit world? And I said, look, you got to look at this thing as a hand and glove. If you had your leg cut off, don't call me. Go to the trauma center, right? Okay. If you need your appendix taken out, don't call me. Go to the trauma center. Okay. So they work hand in glove. Okay. But stop using petroleum-based things when there's an alternative. Like, again, one of the biggest ones growing now is cannabis, right? CBD and THC to treat pain. Let's not get into PTSD and all that stuff. I got all that. Okay. I got severe PTSD. The codeine, the morphine that I've been taking for decades only had so much of an effect. When I finally said, you know what, I got to try something else, and started looking into CBD, it changed my life. I take more CBD, which is the non-get high side, for management than anything else on this planet. And frankly, it's a godsend. Okay. I'm not into I used to drink like a fish. I just don't do it anymore. Okay. But I never smoked. I never did drugs, so I was kind of reluctant to even try and get around, the marijuana, until I did enough research where I realized, and talked to a lot of vets, that the CBD is a huge help for chronic pain. And I'm telling you, I have never slept better than since I started taking CBD.
Oh, I mean, I'm a huge, been using it for years.
Hey, Jamie, let's get you a CBD sponsorship, man. Let's go. Massachusetts Marijuana by Jeremy.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it is legal here, and as much as they're trying to repeal that now, I believe the pharmaceutical companies are fully behind that. But it's as much as they're trying to repeal that now, I mean, they'd be stupid to, and they're not going to. It's not going to, because it's helped so many people that there'd be outrage if it went back to being illegal.
That genie's out of the bottle.
Yeah, I mean, but the pharmaceutical companies don't like it because they're losing money left and right, because people just go to the dispensary and, with medical or not medical, if they're in the right states, and get things that help them. I mean, I see people of all ages, shapes, sizes, variants, genders in the dispensary every time I go to pick up something, and I never thought I would see someone who looks like my grandpa in a dispensary. I never thought I would, like when it became legal. I thought it'd all be people in their from 18 to maybe 40, but I see everybody in there. Like, I can see anybody in my town in there, and it's helping them. And
but remember this, Jeremy. Whenever people are in pain and they're hurting, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, the dark side loves it, because that's not only what they feed off of, it helps them continue to draw your vibration down lower and lower and lower. Again, white light, high vibration, darkness, low vibration, right? Okay, so the closer you can get to the low vibration, the easier it is for them to prepare to take your soul. And always remember the end game. Darkness is after your soul. Don't ever forget that.
Oh, I mean, of course. It's what they that's one thing that every mythology got right is your soul has the highest price of any part of your body, and it's it's always being played for, whether you want it to be or not. It's always being played for by something. And well, I could literally talk to my friend here for hours and hours, but I'm sure he's got other things to do today, as I do. So, where can they find your book? Where can they find you if they want to seek you out for help?
So my latest book is Mysteries at the Wyndham Inn. Best place to get it is on Amazon. Okay. You can reach out to me on Facebook at D Paul Fleming. I write under the author name of D Paul on the mysteries, but some of my other books, like A Date with Suicide, that's under D Paul Fleming. The easiest way is to get it on Amazon. Mysteries of the Wyndham Inn is a series. Book 1 is out October 1st. Book 2 will be out by the end of the year. It's great series that I guarantee you, it will capture your attention. And if you like anything to do with the spirit world, you're going to love this series. It literally has answers to how to protect yourself and how the spirit world works woven in the pages, like I was giving a lecture on how to put up protection, but it's done in a novel where it's slipped in different pieces of the paragraphs, so you don't really realize you're getting taught how to protect yourself. It's a great read. If you want to reach out, you can email is always the best way, dpaul@blackhawkbooks.com, or Facebook. Send me a message on Facebook. But buy the book, spread the series. It's great stuff. Come on, let's get it on Netflix. We gotta get this on Hulu or Netflix. This would be a great Hulu series. Okay, trust me. And all you people that get in early, you'll be at the front stage for the grand opening, right? When it is a series on TV. Mysteries of the Wyndham Inn, the feral feline. Get it today.
Honestly, with the direction they go on all these streaming services now with shows like that, I could see it getting picked up. It really could be. Everything's getting picked up nowadays. I never thought it would. So it's 100% possible.
Yeah, but this is a great book with a lot of avenues in it.
I want to read it. It sounds really interesting, actually.
Hey, you start reading this thing, you're not going to put it down, man. It is a hell of a read.
Yeah, I'll have to pick it up and add to my collection of someday. But
so, Jeremy, when are we going ghost hunting?
Yeah, give me a place and time, and I'll see if I can make it work. Well, I've never done it. I never have done it, but I would be down to try.
If you decide to, reach out, and if you find somebody that's looking for somebody that knows how to, look into these things, feel free to pass my name along. Especially if somebody's, needs a clearing or their house cleared or they need darkness removed.
Yep. Folks, there you go. Reach out if you need help, and who knows? Maybe you'll see a live stream someday of me and D Paul here ghost hunting somewhere. It's possible. I always said I wanted to go on my first one eventually, but
maybe you should do that to Wyndham Inn.
Yeah, Connecticut's not that far a drive, so we could see. But folks, I want to thank you all for joining us on this Saturday morning. All 59 of you currently, thank you. And
heck of a crowd. Thank you so much, guys. Grateful for that.
And but with these stories, they didn't want to leave. I'm pretty sure, but
I hope so.
I can't imagine. But you all know where you can find me by now. If you don't, just shame. But check the outro of all listeners; they'll be there, and it's been scrolling across the screen for all you people watching. Come on now, come on. But I will see you all tomorrow morning with another interview. It's been busy on weekends with these interviews lately. I don't know why, but I don't mind starting my days off with these types of talks. So let's keep the fun going. And I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good day.